And welcome into Making Sense. You know, if you watch the news, you found out that the Fed is not going to be raising the interest rate in the foreseeable future. Well, that's going to be kind of good news, but at the same time, as a senior, and if you have investments, you're wondering, when are we ever going to be able to make any money on interest? So we went to the horse's mouth, Brandt McDonald, McDonald Hagen Wealth Management. And Brandt, what's it look like with everything that's transpiring there?
You know, it's incredible, Jack, because in December of 15, the Federal Reserve, Janet Yellen, finally got the first rate hike done in 9 years.
Isn't that amazing?
They raised it by 0.25%. And then she said they were going to raise rates 4 more times in 16. Right after that, in 6 weeks, the middle of February of 16, the S&P 500 was down 15%.
Yes.
Crude oil was at $25 a barrel, and it was like the dollar was going through the roof. And the dollar, when that happens, is like a wrecking ball going through Europe, and especially banks who have loans tied to energy companies. So when the price of oil is down, those energy companies are in trouble, and that feeds back all the way to the banks who made these loans. And so Janet Yellen had to sort of cave in at that first FOMC meeting, or the policy meeting in the first quarter of this year. And she said, no, we're not going to raise rates. And she sounded what we call a real dovish tone.
Yes.
And so then we started to see what you would exactly expect to see. Crude oil starts to go back up because the dollar going down. The stock market put in a bottom and started to go back up. But then they started again talking about, hey, we might want to get a rate hike off and all of this kind of thing around the May time frame. But it didn't happen. As a matter of fact, it was really quite embarrassing for the Fed, because at the June meeting, I call it sort of like Janet Yellen came out and waved the white flag of surrender to the market, because the market was casting its own vote and it was completely ignoring everything the Fed was saying. So there's not a whole lot of confidence in the Fed right now. In fact, it's now being dubbed as one of the Feds in a long, long time that is really not very well respected by the international financial market.
Not well received either.
No, it's not. And so a number of the governors on the board even said, hey, we may need to rethink the data we're looking at, or all this kind of thing. So this is
we look at the data.
That's
all you do is look at data.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
And so when they backed off the rate hike, and it now appears as if we might get 1 or 2 in the next 18 months.
Wow.
Okay. As a matter of fact, a number of the very large hedge fund managers who are widely respected globally have said the Fed's next move is probably going to be more quantitative easing or more printing of money. Which is not going to work. It hasn't worked
in the past.
Look at the Bank of Japan, which has been doing this, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. Half of the world's government bonds are yielding negative interest rates. Negative. Meaning if you live in Japan and you buy a 10-year treasury in Japan, you're guaranteed to lose money every single year for the 10 years. So
why would you do that?
That's exactly what everyone asks me. It's because it's a known loss. It's a known loss. It's the best option available in a deflationary environment. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So, but you know, my fear with all of this, with rates staying down like this, is so many people who are retired, senior citizens, looking for a place to make money. They're reaching in and they're out and they're going into these products that may sound great on the front end, but they're really not all they're cracked up to be. And it concerns me. And I really was heartened when, you know, the state of Alabama under Joe Borg passed this new law and regulatory issue that really makes it incumbent upon a number of people in our industry to report to them if there are sort of a malpractice going on, if you will. And
you got one.
Yes,
your firm did.
Yeah,
right,
and
on the onset.
I think it's a great thing, because it really upsets me when people come in my office and I see some of the stuff that they have been sold, and I just shake my head and I'm thinking, this is unreal. I mean, because here's the problem: when interest rates start to go back up, finally, when rates begin to normalize, you're going to see the water is going to go out, and you're going to see who's wearing that bathing suit.
That's right.
Because it could be nasty, and a lot of these products that have been manufactured may not do too well. So that I still subscribe to the adage of it's old-fashioned blocking and tackling. You know, look at fundamentals. Yes, obviously monitor your macro issues and all of that. but stick with stuff that you know. If you can't understand it, really, you got to be careful.
Right.
A lot of this stuff. So rates are down, probably going to stay down a while. Negative interest rates around the world, and the European Union as well as the Bank of Japan are not working, but yet these central bankers continue to do this. You cannot fight deflation with deflation. It doesn't work.
No.
And we're seeing that. So be careful. That's my message to baby boomers and retirees. Be extremely careful. And as I always say, as kind of our motto, know what you own and why you own it. If you can't answer it, then there's a problem.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for being here these past few weeks. And just remember this, when you're going to have your heart operated on, you go to a specialist because you don't understand the inner workings of your heart. If you're not having a problem, if you are having a problem with some of the financial things that are a part of your life, find yourself a specialist such as Brandt, and we'll be right back right after this.